Okay, good morning, everyone. We will do DAF Zayin Amud Aleph in Moed Katan. God willing, I'll be here during the week, giving the share this week as Rabbi Kropkin is away. And please feel free to ask questions. I look forward to learning with you. So we saw in the Mishnah on Vav Amabez, we saw in the Mishnah that you're allowed to capture mice and moles from a Mistea Ilan and Mistea Lavan Kedarko, according to the Tanakama, and the Chaim say no. Chaim say that Mistea Ilan you could do a Kedarko, as Rashi explains, because it's going to be a Hefseid Meruba. But from a Mistea Lavan, which is a wheat field and not a tree field, but a wheat field, so a wheat field is not going to be so much damage if you let the mice and the moles. There'll be a little bit of damage, but not too much damage. Since there won't be too much damage, so we're going to let you get rid of them, but you're going to have to do it in a roundabout way. Shalo Kedarko. So let's see what this means. So on the top is Zayin Amud Aleph. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Misadeha Ilan Kedarko, Mistea Lavan Shalo Kedarko. So Rabbi Yehuda says that from a Mistea Ilan you can do it regularly, and from a Mistea Lavan you can do it only in a roundabout way. Again, because it's not necessarily going to be so harmful to have them walking around your grain field. Tanu Rabbanan Keitza Kedarko. Well, what does this mean? What does it consist of, getting rid of mice and moles? Kedarko, and what does it consist of, getting them rid of them? Shalo Kedarko. So Chofer Guma V'Tola Ba Mitsuda. So the regular way of doing it is to dig a hole and to put a trap in the hole, and then they're going to come to the trap and they're going to get trapped. Ketzat Shalo Kedarko. What does it mean, Shalo Kedarko? How do you do it not in the regular way? Noet shpud. You put a iron spit in the ground. Umake bekordum, and you hammer it with a hammer. Umardeha adama mitachteha, and you flatten the adama from underneath him. So there's different interpretations on how to do this. Some people say that what is this accomplishing? That when you flatten the ground, so the mole can't travel through the ground and it's going to die just because it can't go anywhere. Others say that when you flatten the ground, by definition, the ground is going to fall on top of the moles and the mice, and they're going to die from the ground falling on top of them. Others say that they're not going to die from being trapped, and they're not going to die from the ground falling on them, but actually when you flatten the ground, they're going to start running away. They're going to run to the top of the ground, and when they get to the top of the ground, they're going to go into the trap that you set. So the regular way is to dig a hole and put in a trap. The roundabout way is to take a iron spit and hammer it and have the ground flatten. Tanya, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer. What? Doing
that in terms of, for Chol Moed, digging the whole thing, put it in the spood, right, as opposed to just put it in the trap.
Right, you still have to dig a...
is more tircha.
Right, interesting. Shalo Kedarko, that's interesting. But it sounds like, you take the iron spit and you hammer it and then the ground falls and it's gone. Interesting. It's not as efficient. It's not as efficient. The other way, you still have to dig a hole and put in the trap. Tani Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Kasharmu Mistei Lavan Shalo Kedarko Lo Amar Ela B'Stei Lavan Asmuch Lir. So interesting. So now we have a kula, we can call it, that we said that for a Stei Lavan, that for a grain field, as opposed to a field of trees, you have to do it in a roundabout way. But he says that when we said you have to do it in a roundabout way by a stei lavan, by a grain field, lo amar ela b'stei lavan asmuch lir. That's only when you have a grain field that's sitting by itself. So for a grain field, it's not going to be such bad damage to leave them, so you can do it, but in a roundabout way. However, aval b'stei lavan asmucha l'stei ha'ilan, if you have a stei lavan, a grain field that's near a stei ilan, and therefore there's a potential even for hefseid meruba, because if you don't take care of it in the stei lavan the appropriate, proper way, Darko, then the mice and the moles might go into the stei ilan and actually ruin the stei ilan. So when they're next to each other, afilu kedarko. Then in the grain field, you could even do a kedarko. Shema yetu mistei halavan v'yachu retz halyanados. Very interesting. So even with the potential for a hefseid meruba, we're going to let you do it in the regular way, even in a stei lavan, in a grain field, to prevent them going into the stei ha'ilan. Umekaranis appear to b'moed. The next part of the Mishnah says you're allowed to fix a fence that's breached on the Moed. So how do you fix a fence that's breached on the Moed? Keitza and Makaran, how do you fix it? So again, you need to do it in a non-permanent way, because you can't do malacha on the Moed if you have a way to do it without doing malacha. Rav Yoseph Omer, behutza v'dafna. Rashi says hutza means palm branches, and dafna is like laurel boards. So basically what you do is when you build a fence, so you have the wood boards, and then you tie them together really tight. But on the Moed, we can't have a permanent fence, so you take this laurel boards and you tie them together with hutza, with like palm branch stuff, and therefore it's not permanent. It'll do the job, but it's not going to be a permanent fix. B'masni satan, another way to do it is sar b'tzur v'enotach betit. You can use bricks, but usually you use bricks. What do? You put cement between the bricks to keep them together. Here on the Moed, you can use the bricks to build the wall to fix the fence, but you can't put the cement together. You can't make it a permanent structure. Amar Rav Chisda lo shanu ela kotel hagina ava kotel hachatzer bone kedarko. So Rav Chisda says something very interesting. Rav Chisda says that we're only learning by a kotel hagina, that this is by a garden. If your fence by your garden is breached, there's not going to be such a big hefseid meruba, going along the lines of the last halachas we were talking about. It's not going to be such a big hefsek. Remember, as Rashi tells us, okay, people are going to come in. It's interesting. Rashi seems to say that we're not worried that animals are going to come in with a small breach, and it sounds like the temporary fence will be able to keep out the animals. But we're not worried that people are going to come into your gina, and if they do, so then what's going to happen? Nothing's really bad is going to happen. So that's why for a gina you have to do a temporary fix. If your alarm system in your house is broken, you got to fix that because somebody's going to break in and steal all your stuff. So when we said you're only allowed to do this temporary fix with hutzah and dafna or with stones without cement, that's only with kotel hagina, with the garden. But for the kotel of the chutzner, which surrounds the actual houses, that you can actually build with a permanent structure. Let's have a proof. Kotel hagucha l'rishus so servona kedarkum hasakana. Interesting. So there's a brisa which seemingly supports this, which says that if you have a wall of your property which is leaning towards rishus harabim, like your fence is basically leaning towards a public domain, and there's a chance it's going to fall and actually hurt somebody. So what are you allowed to do? You're allowed to sow serabona kedarkum ne hasakana. Because it's a sakana, it might fall on somebody, rishus harabim, you're allowed to knock it down and rebuild it. Why is that a proof? Because we see that the kotel of your chutzner, you're not allowed to do a permanent fix. What's the problem with this? So the Gemara is going to say, very nice. Hasam kidiktani time of sakana. Yeah, if by a sakana you have a proof, by a sakana it says you're allowed to fix it because you don't want to get somebody hurt. Who said that means that by a hefseid, even a hefseid gadol, you're allowed to do a permanent fix? So we don't have a proof. Other people say that it's actually a kasha. Tashma. There's a kasha on Rav Chisda again who says that you're allowed to use a temporary fix for the gina, but you're allowed to use a permanent fix for the chutzner. What's the problem? You see over here that first sakana, you're allowed to go ahead and knock down and fix a new fence in Rishus Harabim, leaning into Rishus Harabim. It's a problem on Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda said even for hefseid, you're allowed to go ahead and you're allowed to basically build a new fence or fix the fence in a permanent way. We see over here, only Bimdei Sakana you're allowed to do that. Amar l'cha Rav Chisda, what's Rav Chisda going to say? Hasam so serabona. No, there's three levels. There's something where we're not so worried, like a gina, you can't do anything, just temporary. By the chutzner, your house, you could do a permanent. What does this mean that you can knock it down? So serabona, hachabona v'lo soser. When there's a sakana, not only can you go ahead and fix it even permanently, you can go ahead and knock it down and rebuild it from scratch, because we're really worried. So now the Gemara is going to ask an interesting question. So if it's the Moed, so why are we letting you knock down and rebuild the one in Rishus Harabim, the one that's going to fall on somebody in Rishus Harabim? Why don't we just tell you to fix it permanently? Fine, permanently, because we don't want somebody to get hurt, but do it permanently, just like you fix permanently the one that is around your chutzner, around your house. Hasam nami listor velo livni. No. If you start dealing with people and you start telling them you can fix it, but you can't, then they're going to get worried. No, it's going to break again after the Moed, and they're not even going to go ahead and they're not going to fix it at all, and they're just going to let it fall. We'll let it fall, and then we'll rebuild it from scratch. So since we don't want people to get hurt in Rishus Harabim, if there's something from your property that's leaning into Rishus Harabim, we let you knock it down and rebuild it mipnei sakana. Because if we make you do anything else, you're not going to touch it, and you're going to let it fall, and somebody's going to get hurt. If it's just a matter of protecting your goods around your chutzner, then we can permanently let you fix it. If it's a matter of just protecting your your garden, where there's not such a big hefsei that's going to happen, then you only can have a temporary fix. Those are the three levels that we see over here. Amar Rav Ashi, masnisa nami deka diktani. We see a proof. Now that we've rejected the possible rejections on Rav Chisda, now we have to see a proof from our Mishnah for this. Why? Because it says Uvashvi is bona kedarko. The Mishnah said at the end of the Mishnah, you could fix a fence on the Moed, and on Shvi, it's not only can you fix it, you can build it normally. Okay, Dehecha, what does that mean on the Shvius you can build it normally? Well, where's this fence on Shvius? Obviously, it's not a fence around a chutzner, because why would you not be able to fix a fence around a chutzner? It must be a fence around a gan, around a garden. You might think you can't fix a fence around the garden. Why? Because it's improving the garden. We say no, that on Shvius that's not considered to be working the field, and you're allowed to put the fence. But what does that imply? That on Shvius you could build it normally around the garden. What does that imply? On Moed, you can't build it normally around the garden. How do you have to do it? Only temporarily. Exactly what Rav Chisda said. If it's talking about your fence around your chutzner on Shvius, you don't need to tell me you can build your fence around your chutzner on Shvius. It's obvious. Why would you not be able to? It must be that around your gan on Shvius, you're allowed to build a kedarko. What does that imply? Even though it looks like you're improving the protection for the pirei, shma mina, you're allowed to do it. But again, what does that imply? If you can only do it during Shvius kedarko, that implies that during Moed you can't do a kedarko. It doesn't mean you can't do it at all. You just can't do a kedarko in the regular permanent way. How do you do it around the gina? You do it in a temporary way. Who said you could do it in a temporary way? That's what Rav Chisda said. And that's why our Mishnah itself is a proof for what Rav Chisda says. Next Mishnah, I give a disclaimer, is very complicated with the laws of tsaras. I'm going to just give you a little bit of a background, and then we will go and learn the Gemara according to Rashi. We'll do part of it outside, and then we'll read it all inside. So the background for tsaras, very quickly, is that a person thinks that he may have tsaras, so what does he do? He needs to show the Kohen. Kohen looks at it, and what happens? Well, one of two things. Either he's tahor, and the guy goes home, or the Kohen says, this looks suspicious, and we put him into a Hesker Rishon, as we call it. We put him into a quarantine, we call it. We quarantine him. What happens at the end of the he's got to stay in the quarantine for 7 days. What happens at the end of the 7 days? So the Kohen looks at it again. Now, if he sees that it went away, he's tahor. If it still looks suspicious, so now he's quarantined for another 7 days. So now he's been in there 14 days. What happens at the end of 14 days? Well, now we got a little bit, there's no more quarantining. Either at the end of the 14 days it looks the same, or it went away, you go home. Or if it's actually spread, so at the end of the 14 days, you're mukhlat, as opposed to muskar, like sagar. You're mukhlat, and you're excommunicated, and you're thrown out of the camp. Until then, there's an unlimited amount of time, I believe, and you just stay outside of the camp until it actually goes away. After it goes away, then you have to count 7 clean days. The 7 clean days, you're allowed to come back into the camp during the 7 clean days, but you're not allowed to be with your wife during those 7 clean days. As we'll see in the Gemara, you're allowed to be with your wife, interestingly, throughout the entire period, even when you are quarantined, and even when you are exiled. You're not allowed to be with the people, you're allowed to be with your wife. The only time you're not allowed to be with your wife and have relations with your wife is during the Yemei Sfiro, as we'll see, during the 7 days of counting after you have already been declared to be tahor. So let's see the Gemara now.
Providing she wants to be with you.
Providing she wants to be with you. That's
Rabbi, what is mukhlat?
so mukhlat means that you are thrown into a chayrim, basically. It's like you're not quarantined. Confirmed, I believe it means. Mukhlat, I believe, means muskar means like sagar, to be closed off, quarantined, and mukhlat literally means, I believe, to confirm. You are confirmed as a mitzvah. You're basically excommunicated from the camp. So let's see the Gemara inside. Rabbi Meir Omer, the Mishnah says, Ro'en es hanagoyim lahakel avalo lahachmir, v'chachamim omrim lo lahakel v'lo lahachmir. So there's a very interesting machlokas, which we're going to see here, that Rabbi Meir holds that a Kohen, as we'll see in the Gemara, a Kohen needs to pronounce a person to be Mitzorah. Just because you have a spot on you doesn't mean you become Mitzorah. You become a Mitzorah when the Kohen says, you are Tameh. So Rabbi Meir says that a Kohen can look at a person, and if he doesn't open up his mouth, then the person does not become Tameh. However, the Chachamim say no. Once a Kohen looks at you, a Kohen doesn't have to necessarily look at you, even though we'll see a Kohen usually has to look at you. You have to go to a Kohen, except under certain circumstances. But once a Kohen looks at you, if you have the spot, he's got to pronounce you to be Tameh. Again, Rabbi Meir holds that he can look, and if it's Tameh, he could still not say anything under certain circumstances. The Chachamim say that if he looks and you're Tameh, say so. I said this morning, I remembered, see something, say something. That's all over the New York subway system. See something, say something. So this Kohen, see something, say something, according to Chachamim. If he sees something, he must say something. According to Rabbi Meir, he doesn't have to say anything. We'll see how that plays out exactly. Then you also have to remember one thing here. Everybody's on the same team. The goal here is to not ruin a person's Moed. And we'll see different ways of whether you say something or don't say something. It all goes back to the fact that we're trying not to ruin the person's Moed. What does that mean? We'll see in a second, depending on which stage of the Mitzorah he's at. If that means excommunicating him, putting him into quarantining him, etc. Tanya, we have a brisa. Rabbi Meir Omer, Ro'en es hanagoyim lahakel v'lo lahachmir. Rabbi Yossi Omer, lo lahakel v'lo lahachmir. This is the same as our Mishnah, just we're adding Rabbi Yossi instead of the Chachamim. Shim'ata niskak lo lahakel, niskak lo af lahachmir. So again, you have a machlokas, whether you look at a person, you need to say anything. Rabbi Meir says, even if you look at a person, the Kohen does not have to say anything. He can basically only be mekil. And according to Rabbi Yossi, a person can not choose. So now, just to remember outside, also to realize, according to Rabbi Meir, what does this mean? According to Rabbi Meir, you have nothing to ever lose by going to a Kohen during the Moed, because a Kohen can always just be quiet. Either you're tahor or he's quiet. And therefore this whole discussion in the Gemara, as we'll see, seemingly is within Rabbi Yossi, who says once you look, you need to say something. Because according to Rabbi Meir, this whole Gemara is basically for naught. We don't have to talk about this Gemara, because Rabbi Meir, what would I say? Do you show a Kohen an egg on the Moed? I'll say yes, you always show it to him. Why not? You have nothing to lose. If you're Tameh, he's not going to say anything. If you're Tahor, then he'll send you home. Either he'll take you out of being quarantined, or he'll take you out from being excommunicated. So it's clear in the Gemara, as we'll see in a second, that this is all within the opinion that if he looks, sees something, say something. However, as we'll see in the Gemara, what the Gemara is going to use Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi for, and what we're going to do to make it a little bit easier, whenever we see the name Rabbi Yossi, we're going to say, you're supposed to check. And whenever we see the name Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Meir means you're supposed to check. Rabbi Yossi means don't check. That's what we're going to use. But in general, we're going to learn the Gemara as saying, once you see something, you need to say something. You don't have this option to look and not say anything. So again, Rabbi Meir means you check. Rabbi Yossi means don't check.
So what's the compulsion for the person to go during Moed? Let them just wait until after Moed.
So we'll see. We'll see whether you have a chiyuv to go to the Kohen. If you have a chiyuv to go to the Kohen, so then you have to go. Peace of mind, right. So we'll see. So Amar Rebbe says, and we're going to skip this line for a second because we're going to get back to it in the next DAF. Near and Divrei Rabbi Meir b'Muskar v'Divrei Rabbi Yossi b'Muchla. We're going to skip this line and we're going to get back to it on the top of the next page. Amar Rava. So Rava says that this idea of checking versus not checking is actually not a machlokes in all cases. Again, you have 4 times that it could be a case. Originally, before the guy has been quarantined, after he's been quarantined once, after he's been quarantined twice, and after he's already in excommunication, whether he can go home and resume to the camp. So Amar Rava says, "Betahar kulei amalo pligi de lo chazilei." A tahor person, everybody agrees on the moed, he doesn't come. Even though, like you're saying, peace of mind, everybody agrees that a tahor person who sees something that he's not sure about on the moed, don't go to a kohen. Because again, sees something, he needs to say something. We don't want to ruin your moed by putting you even into quarantine or even in a worst case scenario, excommunicating you. Everybody agrees that if you see tzaras for the first time on chol moed or on the moed, don't do anything about it. You're allowed to ignore it, and we'll see that it's based on a pasuk. It's based on a pasuk, you're allowed to ignore it. Right after the moed, you need to go show it to the kohen. But on the moed, you don't need to go show it to the kohen because v'samachta bechagecha. Kulei lo pligi de l'chazile. Behezger rishon kuleyama lo pligi de chazile. Very interesting. I'm just going to stand for a second. But hezger rishon, again, he comes and he sees something, and you're tahor, you go home. If it looks suspicious, he puts you into this quarantine, which is called hezger rishon. What happens at the end of the 7 days? So if you think about it, there's really nothing to lose now by the kohen looking at it. If it's tahor, what? You'll go home. If it still looks suspicious, what's going to happen? You just got to stay another 7 days. So everybody agrees that in the first case, lichatchila, when you see something, there's no upside. The only thing that can happen is the worst case scenario. Got to go into muska or got to go into excommunication. Don't show it to a kohen. If you're in Hesker Rishon, everybody agrees you show it to a kohen on the moed because only good things can happen. Maybe you'll become tar, you can go home. Worst case scenario, you'll stay status quo.
Can't confirm, yes, you are.
Yes. So Tosfos, that's why I said we're learning according to Rashi. Tosfos has this whole idea. What are you talking about? You can actually be confirmed in Hesker Rishon as well. But we're learning according to Rashi, who seems to say that in Hesker Rishon the worst case scenario would be. But that's exactly what Tosfos says. What do you mean? You can be confirmed. But let's keep that out because that'll just ruin the whole shir and we'll go way past 9 o'clock. Fine. Well, I have until 9:05 or 9:07, but we're going to keep going. Ki pligi behesker sheni. So where they're arguing is hesker sheni, because now if you think about it, there's upside and there's downside. Because by hesker sheni, so the upside is what? You go home. But the downside is you get excommunicated. So this is where they argue. Mar Savar, again, everybody's on the same team. Everybody wants the guy to have a samachta bechagecha. Therefore, Rabbi Meir holds, if you see something, you don't have to say something. He holds, you might as well check it out, nothing to lose. Rabbi Yossi holds, if you see something, you got to say something, says, don't look at the guy behesker sheni, because yeah, he might go home, but he might be excommunicated. Mar Savar bekohen talya milsa itahar amarle tahar vitame shasik. That's Rabbi Meir. Umar Savar Rabbi Yossi. No, the pasuk says l'taharo olatama. You only have 2 choices. Being quiet is not a choice. See something, say something. Either l'taharo or l'tamo. Ksiv, and therefore over here we're not going to look at the guy who's already been quarantined for 14 days because l'maisa it might turn out that he's going to have to go and be put into exile. Amar Mar. So now we're going back to the part that I promised we would go back to. Amar Rebbe. Near in Divrei Rabbi Yossi. Again, we're going to learn the Gemara here as not saying whether you have to see something, say something. We're going to learn whether when it says Rabbi Yossi, it means you're not allowed to look. You don't check. And when it says Rabbi Meir, it means you check. So let's see. How does he paskin? Rebbe paskins that in the case of muchlat, in the case where he's already excommunicated, which we haven't discussed yet. I discussed it outside, but again, the Gemara only brought 3 possibilities so far. Beforehand, after he's been quarantined once, after he's been quarantined twice. The Gemara didn't say what the halacha was after he's been excommunicated. We just said they all agree in the beginning, they all agree at this stage, they argue at the 3rd stage. What about at the 4th stage? So Rebbe says, at the 4th stage, b'muchlat, what do? You don't look. V'divrei Rabbi Meir b'muskar, but we paskin like Rabbi Meir, and you do look at the Hesker Sheni. Well, that doesn't make sense, because we just said, what do you mean? Why would you look at the Hesker Sheni? There's downside that what? If he's Tameh, he's going to have to be excommunicated on the festival. Now, if you think that's confusing, we have an opposite brisa now, which says no. Which says that at the 3rd stage, Hesker Sheni, you actually don't look. And at the fourth stage, you do look. So now that makes sense to us. The third stage, why you wouldn't look, because there's downside. But again, in the fourth stage, you look. That seems to make sense to us as well, because what? There's no downside. Either you stay in excommunication or you go home. So that seems to make sense. But how are we going to understand the argument here? So let's just say it outside quickly. There's people that are called chevraman, and there are people that are called wifemans. So the chevraman would rather be with the chevra than be with their wife. Again, I'm just trying to hallucinate a little bit. But according to the way the Gemara is learning, the chevraman would be happier to be with the chevra, and they wouldn't mind as much if they had a choice between being with the chevra or being not with your wife, but permitted to have relations with your wife. So they'd say, it's more important for me to be with the chevra, and it's okay even if it comes at the expense of not being able to be with my wife. And other people would say, I'd rather be able to have relations with my wife, even if it comes at the expense of not having a chevra. So how does this work? Now, so let's think about it. When you're b'muskar sheni, when you've already been quarantined for 14 days, so what did we say? What are the two possibilities? Either you're going home, or you're going into excommunication. What happens if you go into excommunication? So now you're no longer with the chevra, but you could still be with your wife. What happens when you're excommunicated? When you're excommunicated, you're not with the chevra, but you could still be with your wife. What happens if you come out of excommunication? You're actually declared to be tahor. You can go back to the chevra, but you can't be with your wife anymore.
For how long?
For the 7 days.
7 days after you come
For the
out
7 days when you're going through the process of being tahor, you come back to the camp, you can't be with your wife, but now you're back in the camp. So again, we're trying to make you happy. So the Brisa which says that we check at the Hesker Sheni, that you check over here, who's that? Is that a chevraman or a wife man? The one that we check at the Hesker Sheni, that's a wife man, because there's nothing to lose. Either he's going to go home, or he's going to go into excommunication, but he doesn't really mind so much because he could still be with his wife. And the one who says that you only check by mukhla when he's already excommunicated, so that's a chevraman, because he's got nothing to lose. Either he's going to be tar, and now he could go back to his chevra. Okay, he can't be with his wife, but it's okay, he's with his chevra. And worst comes to worst, he's mukhlat, but he needs to stay in excommunication. Those are the two possibilities outside. And those are the two brises. Tanai hi aliba de Rebbe. Mar savar safsa diama adiflei. The second brisa who holds that what? The one who holds that you check him when he's mukhlat and not when he's muskar, holds that the company, tzafsa means company, the company of the world, the chevra, is more important to him than having relations with his wife, and therefore we're going to check him when he's already excommunicated, because hopefully he could go back to the chevra, okay, and even if it means not being with his wife, okay, he wants to be with the chevra. Umar savar tzafsa de ishta adifalei, and the one who holds that we only check him when he's already been quarantined for 14 days, holds that we have nothing to lose, because even if because either he'll go home, and worse comes worse, he'll be excommunicated, he could still be with his wife. That's how we learn. So now,
you'd rather have 1 week with his chevra versus forever with his wife.
Well, no, because he's going to come.
Because if you're firm, you don't know how long it's going to go for.
Right.
And here he's saying, I'm going to give you a week or forever.
Right. But again, it's not going to be forever, because you're eventually the taras is going to go away. But that's interesting. Yeah. So this whole thing is based on the fact that what? This whole thing is based on the fact that you're allowed to be with your wife when you're excommunicated. And again, at first glance, that seems to be a little bit silly, and this is what the Gemara is going to talk about. It seems to be, I don't say backwards, but basically what's coming out is that when you're a Metzora, you could be with your wife. Clearly it's not contagious. But once you're pure, you can no longer be with your wife. So the argument in the Gemara is going to say that makes no sense. If once you're pure and you're going through the 7 days, you can't be with your wife, Kal vachomer, you can't be with your wife during the time that you're a Metzora. So it's very interesting. So that's what the Gemara is going to say.
The whole point of the Metzora is because you spoke Lashon Hara.
Okay.
So once you're sort of in the period where it's gone and you're going through the clean period, why not be with your chevra so that you've proven that you're not speaking?
Right, but again, the fact that you're still going through being tar, that's why you're usher to your wife. It's based on a pasuk. We'll see in a second. We'll see in a second.
Let the guy single or divorced.
Okay, so then it does right. So the Gemara doesn't talk about it, but then obviously he wouldn't necessarily, or he has no friends or anything. So it could go either way.
When you're not single, then you're single.
Whatever. So I don't know. Usually you have more friends. I don't know. Usually you have more time for friends when you're single than when you're married anyway. So that's what I found. This is all based on the fact that what? This is all based on the fact that a person who's excommunicated is still mutter b'tash mishamita. If he's not mutter b'tash misha, then we don't have this whole back and forth, and basically there is no upside of being out of excommunication. So he says yes. V'atanya, we have a brisa that says V'yasha michutza halo shivas yamim, that when he's in the purification process, so he needs to sit outside of his tent for 7 days. Where's that pasuk? That's when the people were allowed to go back after Matan Torah. They need to separate from their wives for 3 days. So we see that the word ohel, you can be with your wife again. Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Bnei Yisrael from the words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we see therefore that when he's being purified, when he's being purified, he needs to stay outside of his tent. What does that mean? He needs to stay separated from his wife. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Shivas Yamim Yisapru Lo. These 7 days are the 7 days of that he's counting after he's already been said, you're tahor, you can leave excommunication. Yemei Sfira v'lo Yemei Chaluto. Says Rabbi Yehuda, what do you mean? Yes, logically, as you'll see in a second, you're going to argue it doesn't make sense, but Lamaisa, that's what the pasuk says. Pasuk says you have to be separated from your wife only during Yemei Sfira. You might want to argue, Yemei Sfira, therefore Yemei Chaluto. That's not what the pasuk says. Pasuk says Yemei Sfira. After you've been confirmed as being tahor, so now you're usher to your wife. During the time that you're actually a mitzorah, you're mutter to your wife. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Huda, Omer, interesting, the father is arguing with the son, right? Rabbi Yossi, his son says, he's the one who holds, no, there's a kal vachomer. Doesn't make sense. How could you be with your wife? If you can't be with your wife during the tahor days, you can't be with your wife when you're a mitzorah. Amar of Chia says, Danti lifnei Rebbe. I asked Rebbe, Limat Rabbeinu, when I said to Rebbe, you taught us the following. Yosam lo hayalola Uziyahu ela b'mei chaluto. We know that Uziyahu had his son Yosam, he was conceived seemingly with his wife while he was a mitzorah. You clearly see from here, that's what you taught us, Rebbe. Clearly he's allowed to be with his wife while he's mitzorah. Amar lo, afani kach amarti. You're right. That's what I said, and that's how we paskin. Again, it works out, because if we paskin the other way, then it would throw away the entire svara of the top of the Gemara. So the way that we learned the entire top of the Gemara was based on the fact that what? That she was only usher to his wife during the 7 days of cleanliness. Or else we would have basically no upside in some of the other cases. That's how we learn over here. But my kamifli, what are they arguing about? So Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Huda Savar, Goli Rachmani Meisir V'Koshkem Mechaluta. Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Huda, says, what do you mean? It's a kal vachomer. Umar Savar, my de Goli Goli, my de Lo Goli Lo Goli. What do you mean? It's a clear pasuk. The pasuk, Judaism has enough laws. So Judaism gave us this law that he's not allowed to be with his wife during a Yemei Sfira, but the Torah never said you can't be with your wife even when you're mitzorah. It doesn't sit well with you? Too bad. My de gali gali, umay de lo gali lo gali. Whatever the Torah revealed, they revealed, and let's not bring extra stringencies upon ourselves. That's what we have rabbis for. Okay. L'meimra de bekohen tal yamilsa. So now, according to either pshat, we're going back to Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah. Rabbi Meir, and Rabbi Yossi in the Mishnah, we said again that everybody agrees that it's dependent on the Kohen saying something. Right? One opinion said, which we said that we learned the Gemara throughout, like that opinion, see something, say something. But even he agrees that the Kohen needs to say something, and only once he says something. Yes, he has no choice but to say something, but unless he says something, the guy doesn't become mitzorah. So the Gemara wants to know, what's the basis for the idea that if you see something on your body, that it's only when the Kohen, yes, you have to go to a Kohen. And yes, when you go to the Kohen, he has to say something. But where do we see this idea that it's only once it comes out of the mouth of a Kohen are you considered to be tameh or quarantined or tar? Where do we see that the Kohen's mouth is basically the item that controls your status? So the Gemara says, L'meimer de b'Kohen talia milsa in. Yes, it's clear that from the Kohen. Now we have a mechlokes, what exactly the basis of this is. Vatanya here, a lot of times Vatanya is a question. Over here it seems to be a proof. Uviyom heraos bo. On the day that you show the Kohen, he makes a decision. And the Gemara here, as we'll see on the next DAF, is learning from the extra word u, from the extra letter u. It could have just said biyom heraos bo, when you show him, the day you show him. Uviyom, and on the day, teaches us yesh yom she'ata roebo, v'yesh yom she'iyata roebo. Interesting. So now we're saying it's all depending on the mouth of the Kohen. Why does that make a nafkamina? Because there are times when you don't have to even show him. When do you not have to show him? From here we learn from this extra u that it's dependent on the mouth of the Kohen. Not only is it dependent on the mouth of the Kohen, there are times when you don't have to show the Kohen. Because again, if it wasn't dependent on the mouth of the Kohen, then who cares if you're part of your Shever Brachos, or who cares if it's the Moed? L'maisa, when you got the tzaras, you have the tzaras. But since we have the potential and the ability to not show it to the Kohen, again, once he sees it, he's got to say something. See something, say something. But it's teaching us that there are times when you don't have to say anything. You don't have to show it to him. He doesn't have to even see it. Once he sees it, he's got to say something. There are times when you can sit at home and not even go to the Kohen. What are those times? A chasan during Sheva Brachos, for him, or if he has saras on his bayis or on his clothing. And on the regel, nosin lo sheva yimei regelo, right? And this is, we already said on the bottom, it's beautiful how Gemara always comes together. This is what we said on the bottom of Zayin Amud Aleph. Everybody agrees that what? Lechatchila, if you see it for the first time on the regel, what do? You don't do anything. You stay home. That's what this is based on. That's the first opinion. That's the basis for this. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Meir Omer, no, you don't even need that pasuk. I have another pasuk. Eino tzarech. Hareyu Omer v'tziva kohen ufinu etzabayis. It's interesting. Not even on the Moed. The halacha is that if you see saras in your house, so again, the kohen needs to see it and he needs to declare your house to be tamei. But there's actually, I don't say a roundabout because the Torah gives you the kula. The Torah tells you that before the kohen comes to your house, he's allowed to tell you to remove all the vessels from your house before he looks at your taras. Because what happens if he comes to your house and there's saras on the wall? Then everything becomes tamei, which is a chiddush, as we'll see, because usually kalim don't become tamei unless they have a receptacle. But it becomes, so the Torah itself has a built-in heter, a built-in kula, that before the kohen comes to your house, when you think you have tzaras, not on the moed, on a regular day, when he thinks you have tzaras, before the kohen comes, he lets you take everything out of the house. What does it show you? This shows you that there are times when the kohen can sort of like turn the other way. What's he turning the other way for over here? For kalim. So the Gemara says, based on this opinion, Kal vachomer, if he's allowed to turn his head away for silly utensils in your house, clearly he's allowed to turn his head away for what? For times when you're a chasan, or for times on the moed when it's going to ruin your moed. So you don't even need the pasuk uviyom. And again, we'll see in the next DAF how they learn uviyom heros, what he uses the pasuk for. But based on this, we see that if the kohen itself is allowed to turn his head for your kalim, kal vachomer, he's allowed to turn his head away if you're during the 7 Yemei Mishta, or if you are on the moed. Let's just read it inside, and then we'll take a question. Rabbi Meir Omer Eino Tzarech, Hareyu Omer v'tziva kohen ufinu etzabayis. We see the kohen is allowed to turn his head away when you think you might have saras, and he says, okay, take 10 minutes, or 20 minutes, or half an hour, and take all the kalim out, then I'll come and check. So we see the kohen's allowed to turn his head away. Imam tinin lo l'davar rishus, if we're allowed to close his eyes, again, for a few minutes, because once he sees it, he's got to say something. But if he's allowed to close his eyes even for a few minutes to let you take all the kalim out, kol shekain l'davar mitzvah, then surely he's allowed to turn his head away for a davar mitzvah. Let's just say, my beinayu, what's the difference between the two of them? Well, obviously, Amar Aryai, one difference between the two opinions is mashmo is dor shenika beinayu. This guy learned from this pasuk, this guy learns from uviyom hera ozbo, and the other guy learns from the v'tziva kohen ufinu etzabayis, and then he learns the kal vachomer. V'rava Omer, a very interesting nafkamina, practical difference. Devar hashus ikabenayu. If you learn from the first pasuk, so what does that say? That says the kohen's allowed to turn his head for what? Well, the drush is only he's allowed to turn his head for devar mitzvah. If it's a chasan, if it's a moed, then he's allowed to turn his head. What about if it was a devar rishus, a regular thing? He couldn't necessarily turn his head. Once you have the second pasuk that says he's allowed to turn his head even for a davar rishus, he's allowed to turn his head even for kalim. So then we see, according to that opinion, you could turn your head even for a davar rishus. We'll pick up here tomorrow.